Hi, I'm Femi OK and you're in the stream. Today, gay rights in India. Is a recent Supreme Court ruling a setback for the LGBT community or recognition of majority rule? Nika Bilal is our digital producer. She has been following this conversation online, pretty much on every single platform out there.
Yes. Now, of course, this was a community pitch show, and the day that the verdict was announced, we got several very thoughtful pitches from our community members asking us to cover it. I pulled up a few of them on my screen here. And since then, since the 11th, we've continued the conversation online as our community members have, and they've been using several hashtags. Here are a few of them. There's Indian Penal Code 377, which refers, of course, to the controversial provision. There's lots of colorful pictures here of people using that hashtag. There's also Gay for a Day, and Femi, you and I were just talking about this one yesterday.
We did it on our WebEx, on our exclusive at stream.aljazeera.com.
Exactly, and that was a campaign to show support for same-sex affection online. And one of the other big ones was this one, My Life, My Right. And this was actually started by an Indian television channel.
Wow, so much conversation.
A lot of conversation. But of course, you at home can get in on that conversation. Just make sure you tweet us with the hashtag AJStream.
Now, there are so many hashtags in this debate. We wanted to round up some of the key ones so that we can see, so you can see what we've also been following. Check them out. The recognition of gay rights in India could be headed to Parliament. The move comes after the Supreme Court overturned a 2009 decision striking down a colonial law. That's called Section 377. It states that, I'm going to quote here, carnal intercourse against the order of nature, end of quote, is illegal. Now, although there's been a huge discussion about why the court upheld a law dating back to 1860, there's even more conversation about where gay rights are headed and if they will be acknowledged by an Indian public that's generally considered to be socially conservative. So joining us to help us pull all of this apart and discuss it from New Delhi, we have Anjali Gopalan. She is the founder of the NAS Foundation, who brought the initial court challenge in favour of gay rights. Subramanian Swamy is a member of the opposition BJP. He previously served as Minister of Commerce and Law and opposes gay rights. From Mumbai, Harish Iyer is a gay rights activist. He was named by the Guardian newspaper as one of the most influential LGBT people in the world. And in Kerala state, Rahul Isra is an author and activist who doesn't believe that India is ready to sanction homosexual rights. So welcome to you, Rahul, Harish, Dr. Swamy and Anjali. It's great to have you all here in the stream. Rahul, I'm just curious, you don't think India is ready for gay rights to be out there and to be very prominent. So December the 11th, when the Supreme Court overturned the idea that gay sex was totally legal, were you celebrating?
We were never celebrating because 3 points. One, I'm proud to say that in our 5,000 plus years of history and civilization, India has never been homophobic. We are never homophobic. We don't disrespect them. We only respect them. But there are reasonable and respectful reservations regarding them. And even though we respect their life, their rights and their choices, there are reservations on scientific, cultural and medical grounds. And I can proudly say as a student of science, science is yet to come to a decisive conclusion and scientific consensus whether homosexual orientation is by birth.
I'm going to ask you to pause after point one.
You sound so homophobic, Rahul. On the one hand, you're saying you're not homophobic. You sound like the epitome of homophobia.
That's a way of branding and portraying so that the so-called left liberals can score brownie points.
We are branding and portraying. What are you doing?
We are not doing anything. That's the reason why one of my close friend is a homosexual. I know.
Oh
I
yeah,
have
yeah.
done a lot of help for him.
This is
He has
like
done a lot
saying
of
I
help for
have
me.
black friends, so I'm not. Oh come on. Or saying
But
that I
this
have Muslim friends, so I'm not communal.
All right,
Come
so
on.
that was
Come on.
point one, Rahul. I'm scared for the point two and point three. Harish, I know you just wanted to get back in on that point one. What did you want to say so we can hear you nice and clearly?
He definitely is homophobic, and the fact that he has objection with what I do in my bedroom makes him homophobic enough. And when he says that he doesn't mind homosexuality, but it's not a part of Indian culture, he should actually visit temples and sculptures. Sorry?
Okay, so
I didn't say so. Sorry. Yeah,
all
sorry to
right, so
interrupt.
Rahul, so you made one point, and that was really interesting. What was your second point that you wanted to make? Because I asked you basically, were you celebrating that now gay sex is now illegal, and it wasn't a week ago?
No, and one more thing, Supreme Court didn't brand them illegal. If you study Supreme Court verdict very carefully and not putting words into Supreme Court's mouth, Supreme Court only said social acceptability first, legal acceptability then only. Supreme Court only said let us discuss this issue, and Supreme Court said let the Parliament
Supreme
debate.
Court set aside. Sorry, Rahul. The Supreme Court set aside the Delhi High Court judgment, which decriminalized homosexuals. So if you're so in effect, what they've done is they've criminalized homosexuality again. So can you imagine the impact on the lives of the thousands of young people, especially who came out post the Delhi High Court judgment? Imagine what they're going through. So right now you're asking people to go back into the closet.
Are you?
No, that means. And Rahul, what I do in my bedroom, how is the society or how are people going to get affected with something that I do in my bedroom?
I'll give you a perfect counter for that.
Oh,
there are many swingers club and swapping clubs as a part of the so-called modern culture that is coming in the metros. They also say they are consenting adults, they are above the age of 18 and none should get in their bedroom. That's a fair argument, but majority of Indian people who believes in ethics and culture have reasonable reservations regarding the same.
All right,
then
so
how
guess.
can you counter that?
So guess I'm going to take advantage of this pause because we can get the community in the conversation as well. They're really eager to be part of it.
They definitely are. We just got a tweet from someone who said we're not sleeping, even though it is very early in the morning there. I want to pick up on something that Anjali said. This is a tweet from Gay C Family, which is a group. They also have a Facebook page, a Twitter account. And Anjali, you mentioned the impact on the lives of those who came out already. Gay C Family tweets out, what happens? We stay out. We never came out to be shoved back in. So now we stay out, we walk proudly, we ensure others feel safe and come out too. We also got a video comment along those same lines. I'd like all of our guests to have a listen to this.
Hi, I completely disagree with the verdict because it takes away the basic human rights of gays. This verdict has completely shattered the dignity of gays in India. The reasons which were given by the judges are so unrealistic and show the narrow-mindedness of the Supreme Court on this topic. I think now gays will fear coming out and probably lead a depressed life.
So Harish, he mentions those who already came out will lead a depressed life. What happens? What happens in those people's daily lives?
What really happens is now the state can enter my bedroom. The number of extortion cases, there are many cases of extortion which you'll never hear about, which we within the community know, where you have two people in a bedroom or together in a closed place, and you can actually have the police and you can have random people coming in over there and extorting money from them, or telling them that okay, I will take you to the police if at all. So there are a lot of other implications to something like this, the criminalization of homosexuality that the Supreme Court has done. So the ground realities would mean that there are many people. The number of suicide cases has come down from 2009. So now using this as a bait, there would be many people be forced into the closet. There would be many people who are peeping out of the closet would be forced within. They will have to live dual life. It can also happen that many of them are forced into heterosexual marriages. And I would like to ask Rahul and Subramanian Swamy as well. Would you since you are so accepting of homosexuality and you think that homosexuals should live, probably you must be also thinking that homosexuals should live a heterosexual life. Would you get your daughters or your sisters or something to a homosexual man?
All right, so I'm going to pose that to Dr. Swami, because Rahul, we've heard from quite a bit. Dr. Swami, how would you respond to Harish?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that we are a constitutional democracy, and our constitution has made it very clear that all fundamental rights are subject to reasonable restrictions, and those reasonable restrictions include morality, public health, and public order. Now, the Supreme Court has, in its wisdom, decided that yes, this is a reasonable restriction to regard homosexuality as something that should be a criminal offense. Now, surprisingly, the government of India today, the leading spokesmen are all speaking in favor of the libertarian view, but in the court, they've filed affidavits supporting what the Supreme Court's decision ultimately was. They said that yes, it should be a criminal offense, and this is something which is in keeping with our tradition. So I think that this demand for this liberal view, as this one quote unquote one might say, is not really representative of any opinion in India. It's a purely Western opinion, which is
a constitution which guarantees the rights for all its citizens. So why do you think you're going to take away the rights of gay people? Are they not citizens of this country?
I told you the rights are subject. The rights are subject to reasonable restrictions. The rights are subject to reasonable restrictions, and we consider homosexual behavior as deviant behavior.
Unreasonable. What do you mean Indian? What is Indian behavior?
So guests, give me a pause a moment. Just take a pause,
That is
everybody.
the Supreme Court's opinion.
Dr. Swami, I want to put something to you, and I'm going to do it visually via my computer. As soon as Section 377 was reinstated, there were protests all over the world, known as Day of Rage Days. On my laptop, I've got a phrase here from a banner: you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. So you've had 5 years where people have come out of the closet, they're living life in a very different way, in perhaps a more freer way. If they've had a gay lifestyle, now they can actually do that very comfortably. How do you put the toothpaste back in the tube now, Dr. Swami?
No, I'm putting it back into the box where it belongs, not into the.
What do you mean?
But it's already been. This metaphor could go too far.
Please let me complete.
And Anjali, let Dr. Swami explain how he's going to do that.
Constant interruption, I can't really.
Okay, Dr. Swami, go ahead.
Let me say that it's a question of perception. We consider homosexuality as an abnormal behavior that requires medical attention.
Which age is he living in?
As a matter of fact, Mr. Swami, it's delisted from the list of mental disorders.
That's true.
Yeah, so if you would follow science for that matter, you would know.
So let's go back to this Supreme Court decision. So we've had 5 years of a very different way of life for the LGBT community in India. So Anjali, when you heard this, what does it tell you about either the Supreme Court or maybe Indian society?
You know what? I obviously, when I first heard the judgment, I was absolutely devastated, because the Delhi High Court judgment was an incredible judgment, which is so situated in our constitution. So the Supreme Court judgment is not making sense even now to me. I've read it. It's not making sense. I've read it again, still not making sense. I don't know where the logic in any of what the judgment says is. So I just don't know where it's coming from. And I'm just wondering, what is it about homosexuality that is scaring our people in this manner? What is it that we don't understand? And because I feel a lot of this comes from not knowing enough, and therefore it comes from a space of fear. That's my take on it. Because if you look at the Delhi High Court judgment and you look at the Supreme Court judgment, it seems like people from two different planets made these judgments.
Okay, Malika, with the community, do you want to come back to you?
You said you were disappointed with the ruling. You weren't the only one. I want to play a video comment here from an Indian citizen. Have a listen.
My first reaction after listening to the verdict was, this can't be happening. No, this can't be happening. This is India. We still had hope with the Supreme Court. I was very disappointed to learn of the verdict initially. Very, very disappointed. I was on my way to work and I couldn't work. And then that disappointment gave way to anger. I was very angry and went to the Bangalore protest and shouted my lungs out against the Supreme Court verdict.
So Rahul, there in that video you have someone who was shouting his lungs out against this verdict. And on the other hand, you have Clado who says, you know what, society is not the best regulator of right and wrong. Some terrible acts in history were accepted culturally, he says. India must search on. So where does public opinion, in your view, lie?
That's very true. And I would like to point out one more thing regarding the public view. I would like to point out how Harish cleverly escaped my very direct point on sexual freedom and consensual sex regarding swapping clubs or swinging clubs. They are also freedom, but he never took it on because he knows it's a weak point they're standing. My limited point is, the liberty argument alone is not enough to pull off such a spectacular legislation. Let us be very honest about it. And second, I again repeat, I'm not a homophobic. We are already open to deliberation and discussion. With
Listen, every time you say that, it makes it clearer that you are.
Even the American Psychological Association president, who decriminalized homosexuality, has ended up saying it is more of a political agenda that has set in than gay rights. And he even runs, Dr. Nicholas, runs a conversion center where
Rahul,
the gay people are converted into straight.
All right, Rahul, then now it's my turn to say that you avoided our question, or our community question, which was public opinion in India. We hear yours very clearly, but public opinion in India
is majority with the Supreme Court. Definitely, the huge majority is with the Supreme Court verdict.
Harish?
And how have you figured that out, Rahul? How do you know that? How do you know the majority is with the Supreme Court?
You go with the public polls, you interact with people, you go with the other people.
We are interacting with people. Please look at the reactions on the street. Please look at the response of the media. Please look at what's happening around you to understand the
India is a nation of 123 crores people. The 3% English-speaking minority sitting in Delhi doesn't constitute the whole of India.
Okay,
please.
so Rahul and Anjali, you said something interesting, Anjali, about the English-speaking media. And as I was watching the debates unfold in India over the last week, I noticed that there was a lot of advocacy in favour of gay rights. I'm going to play you a little clip. This is from a programme that came out December 11th. That's when the Supreme Court made their decision. And the programme was called The Buck Stops Here. Have a listen to the host of this show.
On the program today, we'll be asking, what's illegal about love, your lordships? It's the 21st century, not the 13th century. This is strictly, and I need to disclose my prejudice at the beginning of the program, an advocacy show, a protest show at the verdict today. Frankly, you're on the wrong side of the debate.
No, he's doing it. I'm in the wrong side of in your studio.
Okay.
I don't know about...
I'll tell you why I think you're on the wrong side of the debate with great respect. Mr. Sanon, what century are we living in?
It's not a question of what century we are living in.
No, what century are we living in? What
century? This is the law of the 21st century.
So would you like the state in your bedroom? Would you like the state in your bedroom? I wouldn't like the state in mine, I can tell you that.
You can get any...
You're on the wrong side of the debate. This is an advocacy show. I wouldn't want the state in my bedroom. Some of the hosts on Indian Talk TV are very clearly advocating for gay rights. Anjali, is that helpful or hurtful for you?
I think it's really helpful because it does reflect a certain reality. I don't see the media unnecessarily propping up one side. Why would they do it? What are they going to benefit from it? What are they going to get out of it? I know, so that's why I'm saying when Rahul and Dr. Swami speak about these issues, saying that, most of India is against it, it's not reflected in what we see around us. Because we see a fabulous media response. Look at the day of rage. We've had, in all the cities that we know of where the protests were held, people came out in the thousands.
And there were a lot of straight supporters.
There have been a lot of
heterosexual.
Yes. We are seeing a lot of coming together of larger coalitions. People really coming together to fight for this cause. Sure. So to imagine that it's only gay people talking about it is wrong.
So this is confusing for our international audience and for our viewers watching. They can't work out, is it Anjali and Harish who've got it right, or maybe Dr. Swami and Rahul who've got it right? Let me just hand it back to the online community again and see if we can untangle this a bit more.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to untangle it. I think it's just a split down the middle here. You have one tweet from Giresh who says, I was shocked at the casual manner in which the Honorable Supreme Court passed the buck to to the parliament. On the other hand, you have Don saying, I support the Indian Supreme Court's decision. But Harish, I want to pose this to you because at the end of the day, you will have both sides. But on Reddit, one person wrote in, there's always going to be a few people who will denounce homosexuality as a sin. But with a population of more than 1 billion people who rarely care, it's almost negligible. So I'd like your thoughts on that are the voices of those who are against more rights for the homosexual community going to be drowned out by the vast majority?
There are a lot of people who are supporting homosexuality, but at the same time, let me tell you that India is a democratic country. Even if there are not so many people supporting homosexuality, even if I'm the only homosexual in the whole of India, my rights are not less significant. So even if I was just one person who was homosexual in this country, without any support, the government, the law of my country, the democratic law of my country needs to support me.
Absolutely. And what is frightening about this is, this has an impact on all different issues. It could be for minorities. Tomorrow, the majority may decide that this is not how we want the minorities to be in this country.
Sure.
We do not want to secure their rights. So tomorrow, the majority can decide whatever they want. It's up to the courts to protect the rights of the minorities. So what are our courts doing?
Let me just pass that back to Dr. Swami. We're in the closing moments.
The courts
so
are supposed to look at the
to
constitutionality.
You're right. I'm asking you to be.
What constitutionality are you talking about, Dr. Swami? You are denying
That is all
a
that
large
the
number of
courts are
people
looking at.
their right
They are
to
not
be
looking at your
citizens in this
sentiments.
country.
They don't care. The courts
We are
don't care
not
for your
talking
sentiments. They
sentiments.
look
Okay,
at the
so Dr. Swami and
We are not
Anjali, I'm
talking
just
about
going to ask you
We are
one
not
at a
talking
time.
sentiments.
So
We are
Anjali, one at a time, and Dr. Swami, only because I can't hear you, and you're both making very strong points. So Dr. Swami, very briefly, because we're almost at the end of this main show, and then we'll take you all to the post show. But this obviously is a debate that's really got more fire under it. It's not over yet, and we're not done just because Section 377 has been reinstated. What happens next from your perspective? BJP are very happy about the state of affairs as they stand right now. Do you think it might come into Parliament and perhaps lawmakers will be asked to make a stand?
No, I don't think it'll come in Parliament. The ruling Congress party, which made all this noise, have suddenly backed off the whole thing, because you may see some media, which is English media or the English visual media, but in fact there was no debate at all in the language media. They didn't take even notice of it. And what's more, let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. I'm also saying to you that the government, both in the High Court and the Supreme Court, strongly defended the law.
Okay.
And the position that ultimately the Supreme Court took.
Okay.
Where is the support from? Except internationally, probably from Europe and America, there is no support for this in India.
Well, Dr. Swami, as you could hear from the chorus of voices building up against you, the other guests, Harish and Anjali, they don't agree with you. Very, very quickly, Anjali, I'm wanting you to think about what do you do next as an advocate, and also Harish as an activist. What happens next with this debate?
That's right.
Harish, this is your life. This is your life at stake here. How you live your life and your lifestyle. Just give us one thought to end this main show with.
There's so many things that it's going to affect me with. One, I am not treated as an equal citizen in this country. Number
Right.
two, it's going to touch upon not only my rights but also rights of women, because there are many men who are going to be forced into heterosexual marriages.
Sure.
And so that's the other thing. It's going to impact HIV advocacy, because everyone who is HIV positive, because of not that.
Okay, Harish, we're going to leave it there. That's Harish Iyer. We also have Anjali Gopalan, Subramanian Swami, and also Raghu Ishwar. We are going to bring this conversation to the post show. The main show is not big enough for this debate. Meanwhile, on the next AJ stream, where is Russian media headed and who is it serving? We'll discuss why President Putin pulled the plug on one of the country's most respected news organisations. Until then, we'll be online at the post show at stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching. Hello, welcome to the online post show. We're talking about gay rights in India. We're going to get right back to that conversation. Angela, you were very honest when we spoke earlier, and I said, what did you make of the Supreme Court's decision? And you sort of threw your hands up, and I have no idea why this happened. But you're going to have a plan now, right? What's the plan?
Yeah. Well, the plan is we will file a review petition. And the way I look at it, I don't know what that would mean, because it goes in front of the same judge who gave us this judgment. One of the judges has retired, so there'll be a new judge. If that gets thrown out, we then also can, I believe, look at what is called a curative petition, which will go to a larger number, a bigger bench.
And what does that actually mean? What does that mean for the people with not legal minds watching this? What does that actually mean?
So that's what I'm saying. It's one way of trying to see if we can get the Supreme Court to set aside its own judgment.
Right. Okay.
Which I think may not, when I look at it as a layperson, because I'm not a lawyer, I find it may not be that easy.
Right.
But I think the other aspect is to continue working on creating larger coalitions, working with society, because one aspect is the law, but the other aspect is how do we bring about a change in mindset? And that has to continue, and we have to continue advocating for making that happen.
So here's a great example. So we have Rahul here sitting on our show, and he has a particular kind of mindset. So when you're looking at people like Rahul, Anjali, what's your strategy? What's your approach?
Well, I think I would like to spend more time talking to Rahul one-on-one, because I feel very often someone like Rahul, the fear, it's a more deep-seated fear I think he has. I don't know what he's worried about. I don't know what he's scared about. So I'd like to explore that a little bit, because especially someone like Rahul, who speaks so well, who's really bright and articulate, I'd love to hold this conversation with him. Right?
You're always
because
welcome.
I think people like him if I can get him to look at this issue with a different filter, I think I would have accomplished a lot. And I think that is possible.
What would Anjali have to say to convince you, Rahul? Why would you be reticent?
And I would request three things. One, please don't brand us homophobes. Now, I always am proud to say that India has never been homophobic.
So okay, Rahul, we're going over
meaningful discussions.
All right.
Please engage in meaningful discussions, and we are willing to deliberate. My position is simple. I don't consider it a disease. I don't consider it a malfunction.
Right.
I believe it's a diversity that needs to be discussed before coming to a consensus.
Okay, all right. So I feel like I'm backtracking over some things that you said right at the beginning of the show. So let's push it on a little bit, Malika.
Well, there's something that Anjali mentioned about changing mindsets. And there's a tweet here that goes along perfectly with what you said, Anjali. Naren tweets in, the Supreme Court verdict has initiated many dinner table conversations. We don't want to win this without winning the hearts and the minds. But this leads to another question that's surfacing online. Harish, Naren tweets in, the judiciary should be the protector of human rights, and it squandered a rare chance to uphold them. Another person writes in, human rights can't be subject to electoral politics. So I'd like your view on whether or not Parliament is the right place for this discussion, or whether it was something for the courts to have decided.
Ideally, the court should have decided, because the Parliament is again the view of a majority, and we are minorities over here. And ideally, decided, and the court should have gained a view which would have protected the minorities' rights as well. And so that's one point. And the other point is we often speak about culture. We often speak about homophobia. We often speak about this being a Western influence. Let me remind Dr. Subramaniam Swamy that whole law is an import from the West. So what we are expecting from Dr. Subramaniam Swamy and other people who are supporting him is to throw the law back to the West, because we don't need that law. The law itself is a Western import.
So let me bring into the conversation for our audience who are watching online, somebody called Crown Prince Gohil. He's the first member of the Indian royal family to come out as being gay, and there's a little documentary that I want to share with you, a little clip where he brings up a number of issues, and particularly why he felt it was important for him to come out. Have a listen to this.
I'm true to myself, and what I'm doing is just not for myself, but it is for the gay community of India. that paved the way for debate on a subject which has always been hidden in our country. Nobody talks about sex, so nobody talks about homosexuality.
Dr. Swami, sir, I'm thinking if India doesn't talk comfortably about sex, how do you even address issues like gay rights? Dr. Swami, you with us still?
Yes. Well, I think, you see, the question is, there's nothing to discuss. We think that this is a very small minority, this gay community, and we think that it's a abnormal and a deviant development. It's a genetic flaw that could be rectified. We need to find a cure for that. We can't celebrate homosexuality just because some people feel they should do it. It has never been. Maybe the laws was enacted by the British, but the fact is that if you go to the Shastras, they have disapproved of it. There's a fine imposed on it. The Kautilya Artha Shastra has been very specific about it. So we don't celebrate, but at the same time we don't look down upon them. We think that they should be able to lead a normal life, but we cannot say that this is something that they have a right to do.
Dr. Swami, so Dr. Swami,
you're calling them abnormal and then saying you want them to lead a normal life.
And if I can add something to Swami,
that is, you can have a job, you can your employment, your pursuit of studies. Those are not to be interfered with. But this flaunting of your sexual right to have sex with another male or one female with another female, this is not. It is deviant behavior. We don't accept it.
Mr. Swami.
I am with Swami. If I'm on Swami's same side, we may be on the same page, but we may be on different paragraphs altogether. I wouldn't like to call it abnormalcy. I would call it a deviant or a different or a behavioral diversity that needs to be discussed. I believe it should not be called a malfunction, or it should not be called a disease or an illness. But we can discuss about it. Maybe that's a right approach. I believe is the way forward.
Dr. Swami, you were going to say?
Certainly you can't call it a sexual preference, as if it's some kind of cafeteria where you can pick up dishes as you like.
No, we don't.
It's not a sexual preference
Dr.
at all.
Dr. Swami, we don't call it a preference. What we call it an orientation. Please understand that there's a huge difference between preference and orientation.
There's no orientation.
Why would someone choose to be gay in a society which is looking down on them? Why would they do it? It's not a matter of choice.
So let me just ask.
We think it's an infirmity. We think it's an infirmity. It's a handicap.
Guess one at a time, because we can't hear you. Okay, Dr. Swami first.
It is a birth defect, you see, and therefore it is not something to be celebrated.
All right,
I would like to ask a question to Anjali and Harish.
Yeah, go ahead.
A very respectful question. See, people like Simon Levy from Harvard, who himself is a homosexual, he has categorically said, I'm not yet able to come to a decisive proof that homosexual orientation by birth is there. I have not discovered a gay gene. Okay. How do you? He himself is a homosexual. Rahul, how would you respond to such observations?
Yes, I will respond to what you are bringing up, Rahul. For example, all of us, as we go through puberty, do get feelings about or feel sexually aroused about certain things. Now, did you at that stage decide that I am only going to be attracted to the opposite sex, if that is true for you? If you are attracted, was that a choice you made, or at that stage did it happen naturally that you were attracted to the opposite sex?
That's if my you question. People like Simon Levy, who himself is a homosexual, say.
Okay, yes.
1 second.
Harish and Anjali and Rahul and Dr. Swami, I'm just going to interrupt all of you, if I may, because this is Homosexuality 101. I'm going to push things along a little bit because it's a very big conversation, and I feel that we're getting a little off track, and I want to get our online community to comment on what you're saying.
Well, I want to pick up on something that you mentioned earlier, Femi, and how activists are going to push this and what comes next. Online, Naren tweets in something saying many more people are sensitized to queer issues after learning that 377 is the state's undue control on people. This person says visibility has increased. So Anjali, you referred to this earlier when you mentioned what you would tell people like Rahul. In light of this tweet, in light of, in our research, we read something saying that one of the justices that was on the bench had remarked that they had never met a gay person before, and that the research for that verdict opened their eyes a little bit. So this is definitely a grander scale. How do you and how would you go about addressing that?
You know, it's something we've been doing for a long time. It's nothing new. We've been working with communities, different communities. We've been talking about issues of homosexuality. We've been talking about issue of rights. So this we will continue doing. We've been working closely with the media. We've been working with community groups. And I think this has to continue happening, right? Because it's only when people understand, and I truly believe this, when people understand better, the fear of homosexuality is going to regress. Otherwise, it's not. Because even today, one of the most common things I get is, if you accept homosexuality, everyone's going to become homosexual. And what will happen to children in this country? Like, we really need to worry about the population in this country. But can you imagine, this is how deep-seated that fear is, that everyone will become homosexual if we accept homosexuality.
I love the fact that all the guests are listening so intently. I'm going to wrap up the conversation, but I actually want to get a closing thought from everybody. Anjali, that was a great way to finish our conversation with you. Rahul, I don't want you to give me points. I just want a closing thought from you on this debate.
I would endorse what Anjali said. Please be open to deliberations and discussions. Please don't run high shrill campaigns branding anybody who has a different shade of opinion as homophobic or conservative or coming from the 9th century. We are all willing to openly talk and debate, especially being a youngster. We are open to different ideas, but let us respectfully engage with each other. Maybe that's the right way forward.
Dr. Swami, your closing thought for this discussion?
Well, I would say that all rights, including human rights and fundamental rights, are subject to reasonable restrictions. It's always important to see that the society is organized in such a way that everybody gets their maximum without intruding in other people's rights. But at the same time, we have got to take care that morality, public order and public health are very important. And in that respect, I will say that homosexuality should be treated what it is. It is a medical problem that has to be treated.
All right, you're hearing very clearly our guest positions as you did at the very beginning of the program. Harish, I'm going to leave the closing word from our guest lineup to you. What is the last thought you want to leave our international online community with?
I don't think homosexuality is a disease. It is not a disease. Homophobia is definitely a disease. And it's a real pity that Rahul Ishwar, who's so cute, is actually homophobe. And better sense to him. I would really wish that they get educated, and if they really are guardians of equal rights, let them come forth and respect the right of minorities as well.
Harish, Anjali, Rahul and Dr. Swami, it's been a pleasure hearing you debate. Thank you so much for staying up late for us. We really, really appreciate it. And Malika, we had so many hashtags to follow. To keep this conversation going, you could just have one, hashtag AJ Stream.
Exactly.
Where is our community doing right now in terms of taking in this conversation?
Well, as we see, everyone has an opinion on that, and that's represented in this tweet from Gacy Family, definitely an advocate of homosexual rights. They tweet in, they're speaking of proof. Check this out, and they link to a map showing that no one is on the fence in this discussion.
Yes, we just demonstrated that, I think. Thank you very much to all of our guests. Thanks for you for watching. What will we be doing next time? Well, on AJ Stream, on the next program, we'll be looking at Russian media. Where is it headed and who is it serving? We'll discuss why President Putin pulled the plug on one of the country's most respected news organizations. Until then, we'll see you online. Thanks for watching.